This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. Coming to you from the kitchen studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Blue Shark Vodka. All the taste without the bite. Blue Shark Vodka coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee. And now, whether it's actual, factual, hyperbolic, or worthless drivel, these gents will keep cooking up verbal dishes that will make your chair inappropriately swivel. It's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I'm your co-host, Matthew Weiss, and we are back to barbecue today, but we are going to talk about barbecue on the Emerald Isle of North Carolina with Chef Brandon Bnice Shepard and his lovely wife, Elizabeth, everything except the fire shepherd.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
So, Elizabeth, well, ladies first. You started this morning off at how early to get here to downtown Raleigh?
5:30.
Ooh. Aye. And you made good time because you got here like with
9:30.
hours to spend. Yeah. We recorded 11 a.m. and you're like, I'm here now. Like, I haven't left my house yet. So there you go. But also, I do love, Brandon, what's up, man? You give me your phone number to text you, and it's like a bro texting a bro, like, sup, dude? Yeah, we good for tomorrow? And I get, we will be there tomorrow. And I thought, oh, it was very eloquent the way you wrote that text, but sure, okay. And then you Facebook messaged me in the morning, say, we're still on for today? And I went, I texted you last night. Turns out, it was your wife's phone that you gave me.
That was the business phone number. So.
Yeah.
The business phone.
Well,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
I sometimes I rarely ever even hear text or answer my phone or anything. I'm kind of very unreliable with that. So I just put the business number so I know either I'll get it or she'll get it. So
She really is everything except the fire. I mean, she handles the phones. You do
Yeah.
What do you do, Elizabeth?
Well, I also set alarms periodically throughout the night to make sure he's not falling asleep. So sometimes he does not hear those texts, like you said, and I'm running 20 minutes to make sure, oh my God, he didn't fall asleep, did he? So making sure. And then he's like, I'm fine. I'm right here. What's on? I'm like, I've been texting you for like 30 minutes to make sure everything's good.
Well, that's the question that I had that I was going to discuss later, but we're right into it right now. I want to talk to you about the schedule, the life of a pitmaster, right? It's different than a chef, and we'll get to this as well because you've been a chef, like running a kitchen or a food truck and all these other things, but now is it fair to say that you identify more as a pitmaster or what that is, a person that does barbecue?
I wouldn't say pitmaster. I kind of don't.
It's kind of a weird word.
Yeah, I don't like to use the term for myself. I don't even call myself a chef. I guess I'm a fire tender more.
Fire tender. But the scheduled life of someone that makes barbecue is nuts.
Yeah, I was talking to a good friend, Matt Registered. Like we were saying, you have to be a little crazy to actually do barbecue because the hours, they're just ridiculous. I mean, I knew it was hard work and I've, dabbled in it before, but when you're doing it on a constant basis, and this is, you have time schedules and this and that, it's no longer fun, just, cooking for your family, or friends or whatnot. You're waking up at all kinds of, hours of the night, and you're trying to get your schedule right and this and that, and it's just constant, are the fires right? And then by the time, when you're doing regular food, it's like, all right, you can cook it up in a few minutes, and it's like, all right, this is right. Are my fires right? Is this going to come out right? And you don't find out until the last minute every time because, like I said, this is the kind of cooking. I got bored of it. It was cooking the same stuff over and over again. But with barbecue, it was more of a
challenge.
Exactly.
You want to make sure, it's always coming out good. And sometimes you really impress yourself. And sometimes you're like...
Every cook was different for me every single time. Like sometimes it would, first starting off, it'd be a little rough. Sometimes it'd be perfect. And it's just managing everything and getting it right.
What changes? You have your fire, right? I'm assuming you're using the same wood. So like, what are some of the things that come up?
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Weather.
Okay.
Weather's the big thing that comes up.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I've cooked in like, rainstorms. I've cooked in like where it's like blowing the fire out and the fire's running a little too hot. You can end up having wood that's a little too damp, and then it's just a constant dirty smoke, and it's, making everything taste like an ashtray. It's, are the logs, are they too big? Are they too green? Is the
what kind of wood do you typically?
Right now, I mean, with the way things are going with the whole COVID thing, I was sticking with pecan, and I'd use, like apple wood or something.
Okay.
Or just to get the color. But now with the way COVID's going, it's like you use whatever you can when you can. Like
What's
wood
available.
prices, it's like doubled.
Right.
I mean, just for a cord of wood, you're paying literally double. So it's whatever you can. I've actually got to using mesquite lately, which it seems like almost every pitmaster is afraid of because the taste, and it's actually making me a little better cook. So
Like it's super smoky when you have mesquite.
You would think so, and a lot of people felt that way, but if you can actually, play with it and train it right, I mean, you can get some really good flavors off of it, and it's not too bold and crazy. So,
And what's your smoker situation over there at Shepard Barbecue?
right now we got a 500-gallon smoker, and then we use a smaller one that we're going to start using for desserts and stuff like that, doing, smoked cheesecake and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
But, so yeah, it's basically getting up, trying to get, everything loaded in and have everything timed out right. So time comes for 11 o'clock, you're ready to go. Hopefully, we will be getting a slightly bigger smoker soon from Primitive Pits out there in Georgia.
Georgia. I know it very well.
Yeah, man.
Did you see that picture I posted?
Exactly.
So, my buddy Nick Damp of Damp Good Barbecue, he'll be on the show at some point. He's going to be in our Crafton in Clayton. He bought it's a 500-gallon drum is very big. Mm-hmm. The ones that he had are 1,000-gallon, and he has two of them on one trailers. 2,000 gallons of pit, and it's a thing of beauty. It's crazy, but he even said, he's like, if anyone knows anything about smoking food, you want to go to Primitive Pits. Like, they're the ones. And he had to drive
Exactly.
It was custom made. He drove to Georgia and got it. This episode not brought to
sponsored
you
by Primitive Pits, but
yet.
could be.
Yeah. We'll get to it. We're going to email you Primitive Pits right now between now and then. And if we say this episode's sponsored by Primitive Pits between now and then, you know that they heard this call.
That's right.
Otherwise.
Oh, my phone's ringing.
Oh, wait. But that's cool. And so, like, even with that type of cook, what I had learned is there's a chamber in the front or back, however you're looking at it. That's your fire pit, essentially. You just load all the coals in there, and then it's all indirect, just straight smoke and heat.
Exactly.
Coming into the chamber of where all the grills are. So it's not like, conversely, like Matt, like when we went to Lexington and we're talking to the guys that are doing pork shoulder there, they have these fire pits. They have a firebox, and they're cooking down all this wood until it turns into the embers, like the big hot coals. And then that poor bastard
Shoveling the coals.
he got there at 5 a.m. and he's like, we were talking to him at, I don't know, noon or so. And he's like, I'll be here till 6 o'clock tonight. But he just takes a big shovel and just puts it underneath every smoker and the 5 chambers they have, and he's just doing that all day long. He's just feeding this firebox until it turns into coal, and then he's pushing it over there. This way is different. You're just feeding the box, right?
Exactly. Feeding it right into the box, and then, it's the indirect heat. Like you said, in the beginning, we were actually supposed to be doing both, but we weren't able to go get the pig cooker, and I'm kind of glad now.
Yeah.
Because, not only is wood prices going crazy, but, I didn't realize how much, like I said, how much different it was going to be actually running a restaurant versus just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out how to, haul around these 200-pound pigs. And
Well,
do
I
all
want
that
to
too.
talk to you about. I want to just go dive right into all of this barbecue conversation right now, but I want to take a quick break because I want to know where you came from and how you got to this point, and then we can get deep into it. But
Yeah.
I got to wet my whistle first.
Right. So, and while we are not sponsored by Primitive Pits, somebody who is a great friend of our show is Blue Shark Vodka.
Yeah.
And
Not too far from the Emerald Isle.
Not too far. They're in Wilmington. Their distillery is, and they really have this refined and smooth style that is easy enough to just drink straight on the rocks. And the key is it's made from this sweet Carolina corn, the sweet Carolina blue corn that just gives it this unbelievably smooth, slight white pepper note, a bread dough hint, and a little bit of vanilla as well on the vodka, just a touch to make it all come together. So because they say that it's the shark that doesn't bite. So I encourage you all listening to this, you have a restaurant, a barbecue place, or you just like to drink at home, get yourself some Blue Shark vodka to sip on the rocks or put in your favorite cocktail. And but to do that, just go to the ABC store. If they're not in the ABC store, well, go to @BlueSharkVodka on Instagram, message them and tell them, hey, my ABC store doesn't have Blue Shark vodka. Make sure they get it there. And then you will drink very merrily.
And before we get back to, let's enjoy some delicious coffee from Joe Van Gogh. Today we are drinking the Mountains to the Sea blend, which is delicious. That's kind of nice too, because it's from Manio to Murphy, all the way down really close to the Emerald Isle as well. But we normally talk about particular roasts of the coffee, but I wanted to let everybody know a little bit about Joe Van Gogh in general, because they began as a single coffee house in 1991, roasting coffee by the front door to serve to customers. Creating an immersive coffee culture and building a sense of community is how they got started in this journey of coffee, which continues to drive today. They ensure high-quality green coffee from trusted partners and producers. To find great coffee, they search for it from the source. And actually, as quoted by Robbie Roberts, the owner of Joe Van Gogh, my goal with all of coffee we sell is to get to the source, to get to know the farmer, the co-op, the mill, the importer. It's a lengthy global process that is personal to each of us along the coffee supply chain, but we hope it is personal to you as well. The more we know and are part of the coffee that we roast, serve, and drink, the better we are. So if you want to learn more information about Joe Van Gogh, go to joevangogh.com or click the link in our show notes. So let's get back. Brandon, you and I have known each other in different walks of life. You're now, of course, making barbecue for Shepard Barbecue. You got your name on your business. That's pretty cool in itself. But I believe you started, at least publicly, with Urban Street Eats food truck.
Yes, sir. That was our first business. I mean, of course, worked in all different kinds of restaurants, from making pizza to a couple of things where it's semi-fine dining and casual and stuff like that. And our first actual business by ourselves was Urban Street Eats.
What kind of food were you doing on the truck?
It was international street food. It was just, pretty much anything and everything, whether it was banh mi's, it was Cuban sandwiches. We did things with all kinds of tacos, just, pretty much any street food you'd find, globally. Just our kind of spin on it.
And sorry for my naivety here, but are you a trained chef? Or you just learned this on the go?
It was learning on the go, just picking up from everybody that I worked from, and just, kind of working on things by myself. I didn't have, a bunch of money funneled in, or to be honest, I didn't even have any idea about the whole PR thing.
Yeah.
Until I talked to a couple of guys and was like, how do you, kind of get your name out there a little more? And I think it was Bud Taylor, actually. He sat me down and kind of went over the whole thing with me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So
gave you the 411.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
sir.
Because I do know it said that your grandfather, Charles, was a pitmaster, right?
He cooked for the family, basically.
I see.
That was kind of how I got into it, because it was the way I, kind of bonded with him more.
Yeah.
He was, old school guy, hardworking and, just straight to it. And, just hanging around outside, whenever he's cooking for the family, I'd be kind of watching and, learning and picking up things. And that's the easiest way we kind of bonded.
Okay.
So I never really thought I'd be doing it as a business per se. But, with the whole turn of COVID and everything, I kind of had to find something that got back to the roots and something that everyone would eat. Because that's kind of the way I kind of developed into the whole barbecue thing. I was just looking at, different chefs and whatnot, and trying to figure out, where my whole culinary identity was. And I kept asking myself, look around and just, find different chefs. None of them looked like me. It was always someone who, was either white or Asian or this and that. And something they had in common was, they cooked from their heritage, from their family and stuff like that. And that's when I started kind of asking myself, well, what is mine? And then that's when I started delving in, deep and starting looking into things. And that's actually how I met guys like, Greg Collier and some other people. And I just, barbecue, obviously it has a strong African American background, which not a lot of people know about. But you got guys like Conyers and just Adrian Miller, I believe.
Grady's
going through it.
Yeah, his book is amazing. I want to talk to you about Grady's a little bit too. Best fried chicken I've ever had in my life came from Grady's, and that guy, he was sharpening a pocket knife on an old stone wheel. I mean, what he was doing would have been done 400 years ago. And no offense to Mr. Grady, but like,
it doesn't change it for nothing.
I'm like, wow, I couldn't have like painted a better tableau of meeting you for the first time than seeing you do this. We walk in. I mean, the barbecue, and when I say barbecue, I mean like pulled pork and all that. It was like fantastic. But the fried chicken it sang to me. And I don't know if you've had his fried chicken or whatever.
Not yet.
But anybody listening, if you haven't had it, Grady's out there, East North Carolina. I don't even know what town he's actually in, but you can figure it out. He's just on the way if you were going to go to like Wilmington or Emerald Isle.
Yes, sir.
We just asked our producer what town Grady's barbecue is. And in fact,
I believe it's in Dudley, North Carolina.
Oh, Dudley, North Carolina?
Oh, yeah, Dudley.
Just like we said, Dudley.
It's in Dudley. Yeah, that's what I said.
So, okay. So you kind of, I think that's like fascinating that you found your culinary identity because, yeah, you've done this. So, but just to take it even back further, because you didn't know that you were going to do barbecue on a professional level, that you were cooking barbecue, but when did you decide, cooking and culinary world is going to be my profession?
Oh, man, I kind of followed after my, older brother. That was his first job. And so anything he wanted to do, I wanted to do.
Sure.
And, my mother, that was one of her first jobs and stuff like that. So, of course, I started out washing dishes, being there until like 2 a.m, literally washing, every fork by hand and stuff like that. So, I mean, and then it just kind of progressed, one day, that kind of old story, guys ask you, do you want to come and do something on the line? And you kind of flow
because you worked hard and cleaned everything really well.
Exactly. Yeah. And they want to go outside and smoke a cigarette or something too. But
like, hey, we watch this frying pan for me, make sure it cooks
so,
evenly.
I mean, it was cool. I mean, and like I said, going through that and then trying to push for the fine dining thing, I kind of got into a point where I looked at it like, I'm not exactly feeding, everybody. This is kind of for a certain class of people.
Yeah.
And that kind of discouraged me. I wanted to kind of feed your everyday person. I wanted everybody to be able to taste the food. So that's when I kind of started pushing to something else. And I kind of actually looked at barbecue like like a lot of other people do in a way. It's just something that you do for fun, But then I really got into it and I started, kind of looking into it and pushing myself on it and realizing how hard it was when you're actually trying to elevate yourself to a certain level to the way some of these guys actually do it. So, I mean,
well, it's funny when you
fell in love with it again.
You talk about barbecue. Last year, 2020, we've stated it before, the beginning of the year before COVID and all, was kind of like slated as the year of barbecue. There were, I think, roughly 11 to 14 potential businesses that were going to open in the Triangle and beyond in 2020. And I think of those, only a handful of them actually did open, and then it took even longer for them to open, which was unfortunate. But everyone was like ready for this barbecue. But it ultimately kind of finished as still the year of barbecue, because I think we realized that, for one, barbecue, it travels really well. It's great takeout food. Mm-hmm. It was great to be socially distant, COVID friendly and all. But the nice part that I see what you're doing, what Jake Wood over at Lawrence is doing, what Matthew Register is doing, is kind of like an elevated version of barbecue, where it doesn't have to be, if you're like saying like barbecue kind of came traditionally from, it was like poor people food, and it's like, this is like things we learned in Lexington too. It's like, we just found the cheapest cut of meat with the least amount of spices, and like we just did the bare bones cheapest thing. But now it's like, or what if we use some of the skills we learned while in the other kitchens that we've worked in, whether they be a traditional French kitchen or just, a Mexican restaurant or whatever, and let's infuse some of these flavors and ideas to expand upon the sides, to expand upon the meat choices. I mean, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in your kitchen and how, someone kind of visualize what you're doing at Shepard Barbecue.
Right now, I mean, basically we're sticking to the basics and trying to make sure what we got is as good as possible, and if not, pushing it to something better. And we're actually about to move into a larger space, hopefully in January, and that's when things are really going to get a little interesting, and we're really going to try to flex it a little bit. But I mean, anything from, of course, your normal brisket or pulled pork and smoked sausage. But we're trying to get into start a whole new sausage program. Nashville chicken hot sausage. I have a Cuban, kind of like a Cuban sandwich sausage that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And then try to get into some things like whether it's, Kahlua pork or, just other types of barbecue. Because the concept that we originally started with was, it was named something else. I'm not going to get into the name because it actually turned into a whole almost lawsuit thing.
Oh.
Because apparently there was another business with that
McDowell's?
It came out of nowhere. I mean, because my whole thing, I was always against the grain. And that's why I kind of, did the whole, the street food thing where it was, just all over the world. Mm-hmm. So the whole natural thing with barbecue was, the whole term was, oh, that's not barbecue, this is barbecue, blah, 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 this and that.
Right.
And I wanted to show that not only is it something that's, done this way in Texas, this way in North Carolina, but, you got satay, you got, barbacoa, you have this and that, this
hibachi,
and that.
yeah,
I wanted to go, full out, everything. And once that concept got kind of destroyed, I kind of once again went back to, what is more of your, heritage? What are some of the things that, people or look like you have done? Mm-hmm. And then just kind of try to elevate it to let people know that it just doesn't have to look like this. You can kind of play with it a little bit and show that it isn't just something that people do, just in their backyard. It can actually hold a place in the culinary world.
So, but in the new spot, are you saying that you're going to bring some of those urban affects or like around the world styles of barbecue back?
For specials, there definitely will be, and the menu's going to expand. I mean, we'll have some things like we'll bring in a couple of seafood items. I was a little hesitant at first because I'm not all about bringing the whole seafood thing to barbecue, but we'll also be doing like you said, just kind of special things to kind of
highlight,
show
international barbecue.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, it's like when I first moved out here and being from California and having like more roots in Latino cooking, Mexican food cooking, I saw pulled pork and I'm like, oh, you're just making carnitas. Like that's carnitas. That's what that is.
It translates everywhere.
It's the same, we just throw some salsa in the mix instead of vinegar, but it's essentially the same stuff. And I think that's, the best pulled pork I've ever made was after I made it, I submerged it in a mojo sauce, kind of Cuban style, and then I did it like reverse. Like I didn't marinate it. I just submerged, like confit it like later in like orange juice and garlic and Worcestershire and lime juice and all that. And I mean, that was the best thing I've ever had that I've made. And it's like, it's kind of nice to just say, who cares? Let's just break rules and get whatever tastes good and put that in front of somebody.
Exactly. I mean, that's been our goal for a while. And and then there's some things that some pit masters that I kind of look up to. They're kind of specialties. I want to kind of head it, do some tributes to them, just in our kind of style. Like you got Helen Turner out there at Helen Turner's Barbecue in Brownsville, Tennessee. One thing they do is it's like a bologna sandwich over there. That's smoked bologna sandwich. I've been wanting to do that for the longest time, but right now in the spot we have, it's so small. It's literally just me and my wife working. That's it. We cook, we do the dishes, we answer the counters, all that kind of stuff. So in the new spot, that's where we hope to bring in a lot more people, and we can actually, start really pushing some things we've been wanting to.
I do want to ask Elizabeth. I was listening to you guys on another podcast.
What?
The Crystal Coast podcast, just because I enjoy listening to podcasts and I don't like reading. And so, but you were talking about sourcing your meats, and I think you mentioned like Joyce Farms and Cheshire Farms and all that. And I appreciated that you were talking about where you source your meats and what you hope to achieve. maybe like expand upon that a little bit and talk about like what it means to kind of be more in the operations aspect of the business and with sourcing and what you guys like to bring for the menu?
Right. So we do try to keep everything as local as possible, whenever possible, especially things like our collards. We have a great farmers market, the market at Cedar Point, that she really focuses on bringing all the local farmers in our area together. They do farmers markets. And so when collards are in season for us, we try to get collards, from the farmers that she uses. Always, of course, a heritage breed pork is the best route to go. We have looked into some seafood options, like Brandon was saying, and we actually will be doing a pop-up for Michael Bolin benefit, and that will be hosted with Keith Rhodes out of Wilmington, and we'll be sourcing all of our seafood locally. It's oyster season, so there's a little hint for what's going to be on the menu.
Oh yeah, we're in months that end in R.
Yeah, so yeah, we just try to keep everything as local as possible whenever possible. Support other small businesses. It's a really difficult time for everybody, and you just have to remember it's a little more expensive, but in the end, it's really worth it because it's a family that you're affecting. You're just bringing so much more to the table when you can source locally.
All right, Elizabeth, question for you. You said how you define yourself in this world of Shepard barbecue. Now I want to hear, though, what would Brandon and others say about your role in this Shepard barbecue world?
Well, I would say I'm most proud of my position in customer service. Okay. That's where I thrive. I am not a great cook. My husband will tell you that. I did not know what salt and pepper was when we met. So
do you have a go-to dish? Like, you have children. You guys have children, right? So like,
you don't want to know my go-to. Chicken and rice would be what my husband would say.
I do want to know that. Okay.
Is my go-to dish, but yeah. So I would say, just dealing with the people. That's what I really enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's important because you have to have front of the house, as Max and I well know.
Yes.
Right?
So
man.
I love the interaction. I love getting to meet people and really knowing my customers. I like to put a name with a face. I like to see the grandma that's excited about her new grandbaby and ask to see pictures. I feel like I make family friends through the restaurant that way.
Okay, so being that you're mostly the front of the house side of this aspect, I want to talk about Emerald Isle for a second, because I've spent a really awesome beach vacation out there a couple of years ago, and I loved it. And I feel like nobody talks about that, and I don't know why. Maybe it's thought of as pricey. I don't know. Maybe you can fill me in on that. But what I want to know specifically is, what do people come for Shepard barbecue? Like, what's the number one ordered item? What's like the have to if I'm going out to Emerald Isle? And then what else is going on out there? Like, if we came out to eat there, where else should we?
So it is a very small business thriving community. They don't actually allow commercial what would it be called? Franchises? Yeah. They don't allow franchises, which is great because it keeps everybody, small business, and it makes people want their customers to come back because, you put on that understanding of we need you as much as you need us kind of feel. So when you come to Emerald Isle, you're going to get, great family fun. The beach, you have a lot of, restaurants, small businesses that you're supporting. It's very laid back. And at Shepard Barbecue, I would say brisket's definitely the number one item, protein-wise. There's just not a lot of it in our area.
Okay.
So we have people that still don't even know what brisket is.
Right.
And their question is, well, tell me the difference between pulled pork and brisket.
The animal?
Yeah. So
listeners, do you know the difference?
We kind of, just smile and let them know what's going on. But yeah, so I think brisket's definitely the number one. My favorite would be ribs.
Okay.
Me too.
We have great pimento mac and cheese, pit beans. They've got brisket in them. So all of our sides are made in-house, so everything is made fresh every day.
Yeah.
We close when we sell out. 3 o'clock is our typical, like, we have to be done by 3 kind of thing. But normally we're thankful when we make it to like 1:30 or 2, because otherwise you get some real angry people. In the end season, because we're such a seasonal place, Emerald Isle is, and people have started to learn you have to get there when we open, unless you're doing like a pre-order the day before. Once people understood that concept of get there when they open, because when they run out, they're done. Sometimes we run out super early, like 12:30.
Okay, I want to get into this as an overall general topic because, Max, as you know, I texted you this weekend and I was upset that a business had run out at a very particular time when you would get this item, but I don't want to talk about the business. Nonetheless, so I get it. You're a small business, right? You're ordering a small amount of food because you want to sell everything you have and you don't want to have waste and all this stuff.
Right.
But theoretically, if you were open later or had more people, then all those people would get fed and you would make more money. Now, so what I'm asking is, are there people that are still there at 3 o'clock and you're like, yeah, sorry. And so then if that's the case, could you have ordered more product?
Absolutely. But the thing is, Brandon has invested now 14 to 16 hours of cooking. We fill the smoker to capacity. So
okay, so the smoker is full.
So what we do,
It's about the smoker.
and
Exactly. That's the only reason why we kind of aren't open, later. I mean, besides you have to sleep sometime. I mean, because we normally start at the latest 1 a.m. and then go all the way through, sometimes at the earliest 7 p.m., depending on the size of briskets and whatnot. But I mean, we fill it to capacity, and we also do pre-orders to make sure, just in case if there were any leftover stuff, we do pre-orders in order for people to kind of make sure they get what they get.
Right.
And if somebody's really got their heart set on it, then they can actually make sure they get it. But and then we fill the rest with food, and once we sell it, we sell out. I know, like, you got Lawrence Barbecue where they end up filling it. As soon as everything comes out, they go ahead and load it back up.
Right.
As soon as we get more people, that is definitely something we'd be interested in.
But at this point, you're doing essentially one cook a day.
Exactly, yeah. Because otherwise, I don't know when I'd sleep.
Yeah. Do you live close to the shop?
Yeah, and I end up staying there most of the time. Like
during the work week.
Yeah, we converted, a little shed into basically a spot where you can actually
He's got a recliner, a TV.
Yeah, I mean,
Got a little Roku.
I mean, it's the only way.
Were you watching the Raiders beat the Ravens in that little shack when that happened in overtime? I was just wondering.
Wow, shot fired.
I don't know. You had to watch it somewhere.
Were you watching the Giants beat the Raiders this
come
weekend?
on,
I don't know. I mean,
come on.
Where were you?
How dare
were you
you.
watching that?
Sundays, I made sure I was off on Sundays, so unfortunately, I got to see that at the house.
Up and close. I know. Matt and I were supposed to go to New York to watch the Raiders beat the Giants, but because we didn't go,
That's
the
why
Raiders
they
lost.
Yep.
And Matt got to be all prideful, that the Giants finally won a game. So good for you.
I took it in stride.
Yeah.
Wish you congratulations on a good game. Hard fought.
Yeah,
fairly contested game.
But Elizabeth, you mentioned earlier, and I think it's important to reiterate and get back into. Michael Boland, he's a former guest of the show. You're doing an event for him, right?
We are.
He's at Hotbox. That's
sir.
his place in Charleston. In Charlotte. What's the event for? I know that he's been going through some medical issues or so.
Yeah, he's actually getting a new kidney, and it's to help, kind of pay for all those costs because he's been really going through it.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen. And even when he's sick, he's still trying to go into work. And so he's finally getting that done. And so some guys in Charlotte ended up doing, some work for him and raising some money. I think they just did that. I want to say yesterday or the day before, like Chris Coleman and all those guys.
Good dudes, yeah.
And and he actually hooked me up with a really big catering one time, and we've talked several times and became friends. And I heard all this was going down, so I talked to Keith Rhodes, and we ended up deciding to do this pop-up to try to raise some money to help out in any way. And The pop up actually, it's kind of a foreshadowing of something we are probably gonna be collaborating on later.
You and Keith.
Yeah, like a full time thing. So.
Keith is.
Can we get some dimes dropped over here or what?
Yeah, no one's listening. No one's listening.
Yeah, can't talk about too much right now, but like we did say, the spot that we're in, we are taking Shepard Barbecue and moving it to a bigger location, but we are going to keep that spot.
Oh,
and that spot, I think that's where we're going to do a collaborated restaurant there.
At the small one or
at the small one?
Okay, cool. How far is Wilmington from Emerald Isle, like driving wise?
I think like
an hour and 15. Yeah.
Hour and 15. Okay.
By the way, just if you do want to ever listen to Michael Boland's episode that we had both he and Ricky Moore of Saltbox and Sharif Fawad of Raleigh Raw on June 5th, 2020 last year, kind of amidst a lot of the chaos that was happening in our country. And that was a really interesting episode with a lot of great insight shared. So check it out. It's called Racial Injustice in the Culinary Realm on our website. So you can get it from, June 5th, 2020. We wish the best for Michael and his recovery.
Yes, sir.
So, actually, speaking on that, you were saying about chefs that look like you and things like that. I mean, in a way, and I'd love to hear your take on this, but I feel like that trend is being bucked, right? Like, you're finding women pit masters, right, which was historically not a thing, and Asian chefs cooking Italian stuff, or Italian chefs cooking Asian food, and all these crossover fusions and stuff like that. So why was it important for you to do something that people would associate? They're like, oh yeah, here's a black guy making barbecue.
Well, because I mean, when I looked around and I started just going over some of the list of chefs that I kind of looked up to. I was starting to notice the trend that none of them were black. I was like, and so I started looking into ones that, are kind of have that, bigger name that some of the things they're doing. And it was actually almost a struggle at one point to actually find them. So, and then getting into the barbecue aspect, there are actually so many businesses that are black owned, but you don't really hear about them.
Yeah.
And then you see all these, I guess celebrity pit masters or whatnot, and that are doing really great things. And I mean, there's to take away nothing from them, but it's like there's a whole side of the story that's not being kind of told or shared. And it does come down to things like PR, marketing, and whatnot, and stuff like that. And it's just something that I kind of wanted to kind of contribute to almost.
Right on.
Not just for something as far as just to throw another name in the hat, but I mean.
And just to clarify, who are some of the people that you were looking up to, and they're like, these are your kind of
as far as the
chefs that you were looking up to.
As far as the celebrity chefs kind of thing, I mean anywhere from Michael Pierre White to a guy named Wes Avila that I kind of met. He's from California. He owned a place called Gorilla Tacos and whatnot. He's actually opening up a new place now. You got Roy Choi. You got just anywhere from fine, Sean Brock, anywhere from fine dining to, kind of street food and things like this. And I kept going back and forth between all these people that kind of have had some kind of influence in what I do. And I was like, man, who looks like me that I can...
So could we say Rodney Scott would be one of those people?
Definitely. I mean, he's doing great. I mean, that, like I said, that's a name that actually made it in there. Then you got, Brian Furman. He's killing it out there. And then a friend of mine, kind of been almost a mentor through this, whole barbecue thing, is Matt Horn. He's out there in Oakland, California right now.
Okay.
I've been talking to him, and, he's just blown up. I mean, and that's, you got those guys, and then you start looking at guys like, people around here know who Grady's is, but if you ask someone out in California, do they know?
Yeah.
But people out here know who Matt Horn is, So it's just like there's
Do
this,
they? Like, did you know who Matt Horn was?
I am aware, but I've never had Matt Horn's food. But yeah, but that's
he's
the thing is
starting to. He literally just opened up, I think, or opened his restaurant in 2020 as well. I mean, he's been doing pop-ups before that, but
I think that's it's like the least sexy part about being a chef or in barbecue or really, to be honest, in anything. It's like you got to get PR. I think
Exactly.
Weren't we all on a Facebook tirade one time just talking about this? And I think you and I commented back and forth nicely, but I was like giving you tough love too. But I'm like,
no.
Unfortunately, you got to do this, and it's like, and maybe the system, quote unquote, the system has definitely leaned very white heavy when it comes to these things, because it's like it's a very systematic cultural thing where it's like you get a business, you hire PR, you do marketing, you do these things. This is like the way it's done, and it's like, you want to be like, no, I just make really good food and everyone finds out about me and I'm an overnight success or even just a success in general. But it's like, unfortunately, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The people that get nominated for the James Beard Awards, it's very rare that they're just like doing work and then the James Beard kind of like come out to them. Because at this point, James Beard's like, if you want to be noticed, you got to like knock on our door. Like, we're not going to go knock on your door. And
you got to come on the North Carolina Food and Beverage podcast.
Right. Because we're only listening to them to figure out who's next. But I think it's like, it's not as satisfying to hear that a lot of this stuff feels like pay to play or you got to know the right person. But realistically, you do, and Rodney Scott's a great example of somebody that didn't do a lot of the PR stuff, but once he got a little bit of momentum, it became easier for him.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, we interviewed him and he even said, he's like, yeah, man, you got to get your name out there. And like, he's reluctant to want to do those things. And even if you watch him on the Netflix special, The Chef's Table, he's kind of like, I just want to work. I just want to put my head down. But I also feel the responsibility to, if I'm going to be a leader in this industry, that I got to get my message out there. And, being on a podcast or having an article written about you or hiring somebody that cares about your business, like a PR person, is essential. And it's not like, you kind of just want to be in your kitchen and be like, let my food speak for itself. But in the end, the generic populace of people that go to restaurants don't put enough effort in to like find the stories and do all these things. They need to be told, where should I go? What should I eat?
Exactly.
And that's part of it.
And that's the big thing for me, because I'm definitely not in it for, success or to try to make a name for myself. But like we were talking about in this industry now, I mean, because as you can tell, I'm not, Mr. Outspoken, this and that. I'm old school, put your head down in the kitchen, social anxiety, just do my thing. But with it, the way it is now, you have to actually, the chefs are actually having to come out of the kitchen and having to be up front in order to get people to come to these restaurants.
But what I will say is you're not going to say it, but I'll say it, and maybe Elizabeth can back you up on this. At least on social media, you're really open. And you share your feelings, you express yourself more than I see most people. And the thing that I really love is like, you'll put just a post up, and I'm paraphrasing, but you'll say something like, today was a day. And it's like, and you just kind of read those words and and then I look in the comments and it's like Matthew Register's like, you got this, bro. And Jake Wood's like, man, like just keep going. And like you see, Sam Jones or whomever, like all this support from other guys that are doing what you're doing, and they're just like, just keep trucking, just put your head down. And I love the support that comes there. But I feel like you're one of the few guys that really does express himself about the tough grind that it is. It's not as simple as you'd like to think it is. And you get this huge line and you sell out and you're like, all right, on to tomorrow. It's like, yeah, but what did it take to get to this?
Exactly. And if people even knew the half of what we've actually been through just to get to where we are now, I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, man, I would have gave up a long time ago. I mean, we've been to the highest of highs and lowest of lows kind of situation. And like I said, and that's all just to get to a point we can get known enough to literally feed people. That's what we would, the reason why we want our name out there is so I'm not just feeding this small group of people, but we can feed this group of people, so I can bring in guys that, might not have had a chance to learn from, whoever, but I can come in, hey, I can teach you this, and you can actually build a business for yourself. like I said, I could care less about, becoming, like who doesn't want a James beard, but that's not in, my agenda, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would just be a bonus.
Exactly. It's all trying to get out there to do that. And while in the middle of this and trying to get to that point, I mean, you can really hit some walls. And one thing that really stuck out to me was, like, out of nowhere, like, I get a text from, like, Matt Register. Like, at that time, we had, socialized a couple times through social media, but, like, he's one guy he's kept up with me. He's just like, I'm just calling to see, how you doing?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, doing good. He's like, no, like, how are you doing? Like, really? And it's, then you just kind of tell, it just all comes out, and then, you find out people have actually been through a lot of what you're going through. And to have that kind of support system is huge. Because, I mean, a lot of guys in this kind of industry, they hit points where it's like you hit some severe depression, and in this industry, you've got severe alcoholism, guys with certain addictions and things like that. And, I mean, it's easy to let things get over your head, you know what I'm saying? So it's mixing, sleep deprivation and everything like that.
Yeah, when you're working in the middle of the night, I know for myself, if I'm going to do a long cook and it's like I'm by myself and I'm just going to kind of do my thing, I may have a few beers, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I had like 6 beers. Now I'm drunk, and that's not good. And then you're just like, what the fuck?
You're putting the Komodo Joe on the app timer and
no way, man.
Alarm
No, I don't use any of that crap. The only thing I put a temperature gauge inside of it. Then, of course, all my buddies that cook that way, they're like, stop touching the meat, or stop doing the temperature. Just touch the meat. Like, just touch it. That's how you figure out when it's
we
done.
Don't use thermometers or anything.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, so I want to put a bow on that and put you on the couch for a second, so obviously you are a chef, a pit master, call it what you want. I mean, this is how you feed your family, literally and figuratively. This is how you make your living, and you have kids, so they're going to want to grow up, and they need clothes and education and the whole thing. So, but it sounds like you have, truth serum here. You want like a higher calling to somewhat be a pillar or a legacy. I mean, what does that look like when it's all said and done? Like, what do you want to be known as? Because it is a business as well.
For me, I guess not even so much as known as, but if I can make it a little easier for people to come up, and instead of doing the things that we had to do, then that's all for it for me. Because, like I said, for me to do what you actually love in this, life that you have that's very short, I mean, it's important, because unfortunately you do have to work. I mean, you do have to spend a severe amount of time working just to, pay bills and whatnot. So to be able to actually, enjoy what you're doing, I mean, that's something special to me.
Yeah.
So if I can, help anyone be able to do that rather than go down some other route, that's what I'm all for. Because, I mean, like right now, like I said, I have a 3-year-old that, that I rarely get to see at times. You know what I'm saying? And that's really rough, like I said, because, we work so many hours, and then by the time, it comes those, couple days that you're off,
you're exhausted.
If you're not running errands for the business, like you're sleeping, and you're trying to figure out how you juggle all this. And that's like what me and Matt Register was talking about. He's like, look, I know that, you got to grind, you got to do this, but if you do not take that time, you're going to miss out. And by the time everything's said and done, it's too late. You know what I'm saying? So it's...
But also, light through the tunnel there is, a short while before you know it, when that child of yours is 5, they might be coming to work with daddy to help stoke the fire and watch the fire. So that's also the good part of it.
She's come a few times, for a couple hours, and hung out. And one time, she even, we have a picture on social media. She had on a little hairnet, and she's working.
In her little gloves, and she was excited.
She looks at Elizabeth, and she's like, she's just staring at her, and Elizabeth's like, what? She's like, you need to get to work.
She really did say that.
I was like, you're high. I was like, that's it.
We need that picture for our social media purposes, for our marketing purposes. Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. And like I said, I mean, if she actually got into, any kind of which I actually kind of would rather her not. But if she got into any kind of culinary stuff, I mean, that would be great. But, I mean, if I can just spend time with her, because I got a lot of friends like Jamie Davis out there at the Hackney. His little girl's been working with him. And as Matt Register, I've seen his kids with him. I mean, it's a cool thing that you can share something that you do and you put so much time and effort into with your kids.
Yep.
So, I mean, definitely when she's actually able to come hang out for a little bit and just do whatever, if it's just for that time being, I'm all for it.
Yep.
Kind of, I scoffed it when you said that I use all this technology to make the Commodore Joe, which I don't, but what if we could actually get some real technology up in this place, and then you're just like, hey, I just throw all these briskets and all this pork, and then I just go to sleep, or I like watch a movie with my kids and like not have to touch anything because it's all automated and it's good. Maybe like that's not a bad thing.
Technology is available, but
it's actually out there. I mean, you can even do the whole propane thing, and this is going to sound crazy, but I still want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I guess I'm.
But because the technology is not to the point where it's as good or better than what you're doing, but maybe it'll get to the point where you're like, this is just as good, or like I couldn't do this. Like this is better. I mean, technology in many ways is better than the way things were back then. Whatever it may be. It's still though like taking the technology aspect into something that's so, I guess, almost like
hands-on.
Primal. Well, it's like, it's like fire and meat and like all this. It's like you do want to have some eyes on that thing.
There's some show out, I think it's with like David Chang, where they're actually talking about a lot of stuff like that, where technology is like taking over food right now.
Yeah, because what if your kid is now, you cut to 20 years from now, and they're like, yeah, we just put everything in a box, press go. And it's, sorry, Dad, my shit's way better.
Right.
Like, if that's the case, then you're like, cool. And they're like, yeah, and I just sit back and watch Netflix all day and, like, hang out and have quality of life. Like, maybe that's okay. And we're starting to learn to not have the pride about the hours worked. I mean, it was so stupid. It's such foolish pride. Whether I front of the house, back of the house, a bartender, a chef, a line cook, a dishwasher, server, whatever, you're like, I worked 14 hours today, bro. What you got? It's like, I went to sleep and feel good. Like,
spend time with my family.
Stop being prideful about things that are stupid.
I grew up in that whole culture of, just, working and, doing all these hours and, bragging about it. And then you start to get older and realize, like, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like, I would like, people to stop, to start getting away from that, because
don't glorify that.
Exactly.
I feel like, and I'm very happy about that, in the culinary world, that pendulum has started to swing and recognize like the corporate responsibility touch point of work-life balance.
Oh, yeah. If Matt gets to 28 hours of work in a week, he's like, slow it down,
take
bro.
Vacation, man.
Exactly.
This is too much.
That's the way to be.
But Elizabeth, we rarely have a partner of someone that works in the kitchen in here, and I also know that you work in the kitchen, you do all this, but I mean, what is family life like? Like, do we get some family time? Do we get these hours that everybody longs for? Like, what's that like?
We do. I mean, Brandon, does try to get his weekly, bi-weekly fishing trip in for his downtime, for his mental sanity. Yeah. He has a great friend that he loves to go fishing with, and so we actually have this coming weekend. We'll be taking Brooklyn down to Holy Smoke Food Festival, which is going to be a barbecue festival in Charleston, South Carolina. Oh, nice. And actually, Matt Horn will be there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Elliot Moss, Matt Horn, Sam Jones, Rodney Scott, the guy Anthony Bernardino from Swig and Swan.
We love him. He's been on the show.
Yeah. So Brooklyn is.
He's a lot trimmer now too.
Yeah, he is. That's something I've been looking at. I was like, I got to get to that.
Well, he stopped drinking alcohol. That's what he did.
Yes, sir. And he's been like, I've seen his old exercise videos and all that, and I was really proud of him. I talked to him when we were at.
Kudos to Anthony, man.
I think it was Euphoria. And
that's where we talked to him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I was like, I'm definitely proud of you, because that's another thing guys in this industry don't typically take care of themselves at all.
Right. And it's not a cool thing to be like, hey, guess what, everybody? I have a steady diet. I work out every day, and I very, very rarely drink alcohol.
Like, I don't want to hang out with you. Yeah. Jesus.
So we do get our family time in. We actually, our daughter will be turning 4 in December, and we've been saving all of our work tips to take her to Disney World. So that's her big
Go
I'm
Brooklyn.
4, yep. And so she's excited about that. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we were talking about technology, and I want to take a second to somebody who has figured out some sort of technology or engineering, and that's Proof Alcohol Ice Cream, who figured out, how do I spend a lot of time eating dessert, and then I have my drinks, but I want to just combine all that and get it done in one, So they
It's too complicated. It's too complicated.
I don't have the time. So they put alcohol into the dessert, into the ice cream, and it's delicious. It's Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. It's out of South Carolina, but you can get it anywhere in North Carolina. Preferably, we'd like you to buy it at the Triangle Wine Company, which is also a great friend of our show. Also a place to get all your beverage needs, wines, vermouths. They deliver, they curbside for you. And for that, don't forget to use the NC F&B promo code. You'll receive a nice discount. But for Proof Alcohol Ice Cream, like I said, buy it there. You'll see it in a little red fridge that says Proof. And you can also, if you can't get to a Triangle Wine Company, you can get it at Lowe's or Harris Teeter if you need
wherever
to.
you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just in a Triangle Wine Company yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking with Mr. Chris Roche. Good dude. And, you just I love just being surrounded by all of the options on a shelf at a great wine shop. You're just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, or oh, I gotta do that. It was like it re-inspired some cuisine, because this weekend I'm cooking for Felicia's out-of-town friend, our matron of honor, Kristen. She's going to be in town.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like devising a whole menu. I want to do like a really delicious idea. I think I'm going to do fire roasted baba ganoush, and I want to incorporate it into like East North Carolina barbecue. So like get the eggplants and put them in the grill, fire roast those things, a little tahini, a little lime juice, a little salt, pepper, whatever. But I want to like incorporate the healthier sides of food into the super unhealthy barbecue, right? To just kind of be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But yeah, and then also get some delicious wine. So I picked up some delicious stuff while I was there.
Oh,
and
nice.
You should too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, before we get out of here, let us know for the Michael Boland dinner, how do you get tickets or become a part of it or contribute?
So we will be making a Facebook event for that. And
Go
then
to Shepard Barbecue on Facebook. That's
Correct.
SHEPARD.
correct.
Not like Sterling Shepard of the New York Giants, which I guess you're not related to, but
And so everything will
Or
just
Lido
be,
Shepard.
it won't be a pre-order or pre-ticket sales. It'll be day of.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
How do you guys know how much to order then for that?
We're just gonna go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Doing it barbecue style.
But it's in Wilmington at Keith
nope,
Roads.
it's going to be actually at our current spot.
At your place in Emerald Isle.
in Emerald
okay.
Isle. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, that sounds awesome. And that's on November 21st.
Correct.
Okay, so head out to Emerald Isle to check out Shepard Barbecue. Get your tickets for the Michael Boland dinner. Go follow Shepard Barbecue on Facebook, and you can find out all that stuff. Other than that, go out to Emerald Isle, go to Shepard Barbecue, and you will eat extremely merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.